So I want to talk about something a little different here today. We've talked a lot about some of the lords and some of the features coming out in Total War Warhammer 3, but I want to kind of get back on track on some of the lords that are behind us now, right? I mean, we have the Empire, we have dwarfs, we have all these other races that we've known to grow to love and appreciate in Total War Warhammer 1 and more of the stuff in Warhammer 2. But there's some lores I really want to hit on that are really kind of near and dear to a lot of players' hearts. And this way it fleshes out what we already have and kind of breaks down some of the speculation. But also at the same time, I want to speculate about some of those races that we already have. In case today, we'll be talking about Empire. But I want to go into some stuff like Carmine von Karstein, who isn't in the game, but he'd be a great vampire count lord to add to the 15 other ones that they've got. Or Boris Todbringer, who we do have in the game, or Ungrim Ironfist, so again, who we do. But someone new that I want to talk about that is kind of just on the back burner for Games Workshop, and I'd say Creative Assembly as a whole, but it's Magisterix Elspeth Von Draken. And she's probably one big fan favorite for the Empire faction. She's one of the only female characters in the entirety of the Warhammer fantasy universe, and she's pretty remarkable. I mean, outside of people like anything in the High Elf, or the Wood Elf, or the Dark Elf range, she's one of the only other female people outside of like Neferata or Khalida. But you also have stuff like Valaya, but let's go into Magisterix Elspeth Von Draken. Wizard of the Amethyst Order, the Dark Lady of Nuln, the Graveyard Rose. For 3 generations, the name of Elspeth Von Draken, Magisterix of the Amethyst College, and Archwizard of the Lore of Death, has been spoken of in hushed tones in the reeking tavern gutters in vaulted noble halls of known alike. And for 3 generations, her lonely, blackened tower has stood at the edge of the Gardens of Moor, on the outskirts of the great city, and stories of the Graveyard Rose have been used to frighten recalcitrant children home before nightfall, lest the Dark Lady snatch them up. Yet despite these stories, few have ever paused to think what exactly the admitted presence of Von Draken in the city actually means, and fewer yet could guess at her true power or influence. Furthermore, the few foolhardy or over-enthusiastic witch hunters unaware of her relationship to the governing powers of Nuln, or too fanatically sure of their own righteousness to care, who have attempted to delve deeper into her businesses or storm her tower, have been swallowed up by so completely that they have been able to share anything that has been learned. The truth is that Elspeth Von Draken is but one in a long line touched by the winds of magic, a bloodline that has been produced both monsters and saviors in its time. She is also one of the most powerful amethyst wizards of the age, but one who will have little to do with the daily machinations or power politics of the Imperial Colleges of Magic, in which she was once student and still in theory holds fealty, for which many within its ranks are profoundly grateful, and with whom she now sits in an uneasy truce. Instead, she is an obsessive experimenter and mystic who goes where she will, and has collected a storehouse of mystical artifacts and lore which she guards jealously, and has become so saturated with the forces of Shaiish, the amethyst wind of death, that there are some who whisper she is no longer human at all. A theory perhaps given credence by her almost spectral pallid aspect, which has remained unchanged for decades. Despite her reclusive nature, dividing her time, it is said, between her tower in Null and another, like it hidden within the Grey Mountains or in search of lost lore, she is, however, a true scion of the Empire, and the bane of its foes where they cross her path. She also has long-standing pacts and alliances, both with the Church of Moor and the ruling council of Nuln, to come to its aid in times of war and the return of their alliance in return. Balthazar Gelt, current patriarch of the Imperial College of Magic, is understandably wary of Von Draken's independence and power, and has long had his agents keep track of her where and when they can. Over the last score of years, they have reported a dozen conflicts, both widely known and hidden, where Von Draken has provided the victor against terrible enemies such as the Mire Hulk Rawbones, who had been devouring whole villages along the River Soul, and demanding a bloody tribute in young lives to the vampire Vashara of Lamia, who had sought to corrupt the noble Jägersbuch family of Fleifdorf, and turn the city into a shadow realm of undeaths. While Elspeth Von Draken continues to concern herself with her own affairs and stand as a protector of the Empire, Gelt must do no more than watch. But there are those beneath him, in the hierarchy of the wizards, who fear that Gelt's suspicions of the powerful Von Draken may yet provoke a deadly conflict one day between them. During the crisis of the chaos host of Tamarkon, Elspeth Von Draken appeared in the council of the Countess Emmanuel, like a spectre of death itself, gowned in robes so black as to appear as a living darkness, and bearing a keening scythe so sharp it seemed to murder the still air. It was her counsel that the Countess Emmanuel took in forming up her armies to defend Nuln itself, rather than meet Tamarkon on the open field of battle. And such was the fear that came with Elspeth Von Draken's presence, that few gainsaid her, despite the cost the strategy entailed in lands, livestock, and human life. On the 7th day of the great battle, when Tamarkon sought to rise up a great and nightmarish ritual to appease his dark god and brought forth an unholy tide of demons to attack the city, Elspeth Von Draken took to battle, aback a Carmine dragon. The dragon's wrath unleashed all unconsuming blasts of amaranthine lightning, while her magical power contested with the might of the servants of decay. After the battle, those that saw her claimed she had faded to no more than an unsubstantial shadow from her trials, and it was years afterwards before she was seen abroad again, her pale and youthful aspect restored once more. We have this really, really badass, really strong, actually, character in Elspeth Von Draken, and I apologize for the reading here of this. The Tamarkon is not well written. I will tell you that. In fact, so when I was reading that first paragraph, it's 2 sentences, and the first paragraph is like, a good size. So it's not very well written. And I don't know if that's why it didn't get as huge of a circulation as a campaign book in the Warhammer world. I mean, we've already kind of talked about Tamarkon as the last foray into the Chaos Dwarves. It's kind of a Forge World attempt to revive the Chaos Dwarves. But it didn't really kind of have the overall polish of a Games Workshop release, because those things are kind of like smashed into the ground, and Matt Ward just kind of like sloughs his hand down it and kind of like curses it a little bit. But still, it does get just that extra little bit of polish that I think the Tamarkon needed. And the Tamarkon, you'll kind of feel as we go through more and more of this with some of our other characters, you will feel the same way, I promise. But Elspeth Von Draken is amazing because she's one of the only Empire characters, aside from Karl Franz in the lore, to mount a dragon. A Carmine dragon, no less. So a Carmine dragon is an entirely different type of dragon than we've seen today. And in the tabletop, it has the same comparable strength or stat line of a Star Dragon in the High Elf faction. So we've already seen Star Dragons in Total War Warhammer 2, and you can already kind of picture how strong they are. So she's a decent survivability, pretty strong caster lord on a very strong dragon. And in the actual tabletop, she was a lord choice. She was about 600 points or so, give or take. So she had a lot of really great characteristics because she was a lore master. Now, we talk about lore master in the lore master of Hoeth, how they can use all of the that's those things called the lore attributes of every single lore. Lore masters in Warhammer Tabletop also meant, if it was a lore master of a specific lore, it meant they had all of the spells of that lore. So she was a lore master of the lore of death. And as we know, the Amethyst College, or Amethyst Order of the College of Magic in the Empire, also known as Shaiish, is the Lore of Death. So this would give Empire access to the Lore of Death, which is a very, very strong and very, very competitive lore, as we know. So let's kind of go over some of her special rules, right? And Elspeth does have a model. It came out in the Forge World, so we'll be flashing that up here on the screen. And it is honestly one of the best sculpts from Forge World, from the Tamarkon line, from Games Workshop as a whole. Like, it is gorgeous. I love the Elspeth model. And she actually doesn't, you can see her on this picture, she is actually on her dragon, but her dragon, you could just put her on a horse because her legs are kind of like mounted out, so you didn't have to put her on the dragon, which would kind of like vastly increase her cost. You could just kind of drop her on a horse if you wanted to kind of cut your, I'm talking about actual cost. She was like a $115, $120 model. Let's go into her special rules. So, her special rule is actual, like her herself, not her Carmine dragon. She has one special rule called Dark Walker. Von Draken's body has become so suffused with dread magical power to the extent that she stands halfway between life and death, and at will she can become an all but insubstantial specter in human form. So she's immune to psychology, that's what that means. And on top of it, she can reduce the -1 to wound roll of anyone on the tabletop. So what we would kind of see that probably as is anything in an aura around her has maybe a reduction to their weapon strength or to their melee attack, as kind of almost like a counter opposite to what we see with what's her name? The Fey Enchantress. So she does kind of like an aura of damage. She would have an aura of debuff instead. Or something we see with Thorgrim. Thorgrim gives any dwarf warrior around him gives them a good little bonus to their stats, like melee attack. So this would again be the opposite of that. But she herself is immune to psychology. Also, though, and this is kind of an interesting fact, she suffers any effect that would hurt a demon or undead. So Lore of Light's exorcism attribute, for example, would affect her. So that would be an interesting kind of thing here, because she is, in all intents and purposes, she's undead. So having an Empire Lord, which is truly undead, is really cool, I think. And I think it's really different because it's really awesome, because she's got so much character, and as you can see from the art and from these models, she's just a very different character from what we see in the Empire. Empire is very righteous, and we have these righteous, and I'm not talking about like the 1990s version of righteous. We have these like righteous and tubular lords and heroes. For Sigma, for the Emperor. Like everything's very regal and very Holy Roman Empire. She's a very hard twist on that. She kind of puts things on a different head, and I really like that about her. But again, so it's Lore Master, Lore of Undeath, or of Death. That's her 2 special rules. Now, the rules for her Carmine Dragon are the obvious ones: Terror, Large Target, Flies, and has Scaly Skin. But it also has Coruscating Blast. The Carmine Dragon's breath weapon is a sorcerer's blast of powerful amethyst magic, capable of withering metal and rendering flesh to dust as if millennia had passed in mere seconds. So, the way that this works is, it's supposed to kind of work like a cannon shot, in that you can use an artillery die to kind of determine where the line of effect is gonna be. So maybe it would be a breath attack that isn't up in the air. Maybe it's something on the ground, but at the same time, maybe it is up in the air. Who knows? So it'd be a cannon shot in that it wouldn't just be a cone in front of her. It would be an actual shot, like an actual cannon. So it'd be cool to see that actually just, oh, okay, boom, she shoots that thing, and it's almost like the Chaos Doom cannons. I can't think of the name of that, or Warp Cannon, that boom, hit it and just kind of do damage. Like, that'd be really awesome if it was something like that. This is huge coruscating kind of ball of amethyst magic kind of just slamming into something and doing a crap ton of damage, and even having maybe a Sunder armor effect, or even a withering armor effect that we see in the Shabti Great Bows, the Chosen of the Gods. So I'd love to see something like that. So those are our special rules for the Carmine Dragon. But let's go into some of the magic items that we see for Elspeth here. So the Pale Scythe. A pale scythe more made of shadow than substance. This weapon, said to be of Elspeth's own making, is attuned to the power of Shaiish, the Wind of Death, focusing and concentrating it to her will. And this simply just gives her Killing Blow, and it also gives her a bonus to her Dispel rolling. So what this almost could be viewed like the Destroyer is for Malekith, where it increases miscast chance. And maybe even gives her the ability to have a heroic Killing Blow, or just a Killing Blow rule set, like an AP anti-infantry characteristic with the Pale Scythe. I think that'd be really awesome to kind of just give her a little bit more of a melee effectiveness / a melee survivability. Now, this next item is really cool from a tabletop perspective, and is very, very strong. It kind of was one of the coup de grace, like what really made her. So this Death's Timekeeper. This hourglass is an ancient and storied artifact. It is said to contain, as its measuring sand, the dusty remnants of a dead god of old, and Von Draken has spent much of her unnaturally long life studying in mysteries. With it, she has perfected some limited measure of control over time and death itself. So the way this works is, she can per player turn, Elspeth Von Draken's player can re-roll a single dice of their choice concerning her or the Carmine Dragon. So let's say that on my turn, I'm controlling Elspeth, I attack, and I swing my Pale Scythe, and I've got 2 attacks. So I hit with one of them, but I miss with the other one. Okay, well, I'm gonna re-roll my other one because maybe that other one triggers Killing Blow. Boom, just kill the thing outright. Great. So on my opponent's turn though, let's say they shoot a cannon at the Carmine dragon and it would have otherwise hit and killed it. Well, they can force a re-roll on the artillery dice. They can use anything that they want. This can include attacks, saving throws, magic dice, so pretty much anything that the Carmine Dragon or the Elspeth are going to get hit with, in the sense that they're going to get the target of or be the target of, they can have a reroll done there. So it's really, really, really cool. But the nice thing at the end of it says, if this reroll is not used at the end of the player's turn, Elspeth Von Draken may recover a wound previously lost in the game. So it's really kind of a cool self-healing way and a way to control the flow of the battle in a way that would make it so that she does come out on top. And maybe this is kind of something like the Heart of Averlorn that Tyrion has, where it has a chance of just popping and giving her health, but at the same time, you can click it and it will give her health. So maybe it's something where you have a passive that has a chance to trigger, or you can actually make a trigger and get more health. Maybe one or the other. Maybe the passive gives you more health, but there's a chance it might not trigger at all, and the active gives you less health, but you're controlling when it's triggered. So that'd be, I think, a really cool way to do Death's Timekeeper, or something that was an outright bonus to melee defense or armor, something like that. I'd really like to see how they do Death's Timekeeper if they did put it into the game, because it's a very tabletop rule, right? You're affecting dice rolling, so you have to find a way to completely negate and affect dice rolling in a way that makes sense for this game, which is admittedly going to be pretty difficult. So I'd be very interested to see if they brought Elspeth Von Draken into the game, because she is, again, a very, very cool, different, and maybe even a much needed character for the entirety of the Empire. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video here today, and you enjoy some of the other lords that we talk about in the lore of the past two games that we really haven't gotten a chance to delve into, because maybe I wasn't into making these videos just yet, or we just haven't gotten into them. But let me know what you thought of this, and if you'd like to see more lords that have already been released and out in the game for many moons now. Let's just kind of cover any lore that you guys really want to hear more about or discover more on. But thanks for watching here today, guys. Have a good one and take care. Oh, and if you do like the video, don't forget to like it. And if you want to talk about it, you should comment about it too. And also, you should follow my Twitter, because if you follow my Twitter, then you can get all these updates about when I stream on Twitch or when I stream on YouTube. Or you can just take care. Either one, any of the above. But thanks for watching, guys. Bye.